Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that His presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. Well, we are entering into Mark chapter 5. You know that Jesus has just crossed the lake and He's on the other side with His disciples. And so we'll pick it up at 5:1. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit, or an unclean spirit, if we want to be more literal, a man with an unclean spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore his chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. So I just think about the condition of this man with the unclean spirit. And I think it is significant that the word is unclean and not evil. Unclean in terms of somehow this spirit or spirits that possess him, they defile him. And really they kind of render him less than human. I mean, they try to chain him up. He breaks the chains. I mean, who do you try to chain and shackle? People that you think are inhumane, people that are beastly. And so they're treating him more like a beast than like a person. And yet no one is able to subdue him. And where does he live? He lives amongst the tombs out in the hills. So not fit for society, kind of rejected and cast out. And the place he lives is among the dead instead of among the living. And night and day he cries out and he cuts himself. And I don't know what all is involved with the cutting. I don't know if somehow he thinks in terms of cutting himself, the unclean spirits will bleed out of him. Whether in terms of cutting himself, he's suicidal and yet he doesn't take his life. He is crying out in his pain. I don't know what kind of war must be going on inside of him. A war to live, a war to die. Again, the unclean spirit just leaves him defiled so that he doesn't look human. He looks beastly. And night and day, he's crying out. No one will have anything to do with him. He lives amongst the hills. He lives amongst the dead. He is not fit for society. Again, the picture that comes to me is not so much a person who is evil, so much as a person who is defiled. A person who has been rendered less than human. And we see that there is some self-destructive patterns going on here, and yet at the same time, there must be some type of will to live within him. So he's there, he's crying out, and he encounters Jesus. This is the first person that Jesus meets when he gets out of the boat, at least as far as what we're told. And so continuing on, verse 6, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" Now there's two things I want to call attention to here. We would think that somebody with an evil spirit or even an unclean spirit, they would run away from Jesus. And yet he comes to Jesus. And so, that's a little shocking. And the second thing that's shocking about it is he comes to Jesus and he falls on his knees. And so he's not going to try to do battle against Jesus. He's not going to try to harm Jesus. He's actually presenting himself to Jesus, and there's a fear of Jesus. There's a recognition that Jesus has all power, more power. And in fact, this man with the unclean spirit sees more than what the disciples have seen. Sees that Jesus is the Son of the Most High God. The disciples haven't figured this out yet. In fact, this is the second time that Jesus has met a man with an unclean spirit. At the very beginning of Jesus' public ministry, Jesus is in the synagogue. And the first miracle Jesus does is heal a man who has an unclean spirit. And the unclean spirit, the man, shouted out to Jesus, "I know who you are. You're the Son of the Holy One." Jesus cast out the unclean spirit and healed the man. Now Jesus is in a new territory, Gentile territory. And the first miracle, the first thing that happens is this encounter with the man with an unclean spirit. And the man with the unclean spirit immediately recognizes who Jesus is. So far in Mark, nobody but the unclean spirits has recognized who Jesus is. Well, I mean, I guess the illnesses have, and the wind and the waves, they listen to Jesus' command. But the disciples and the other people, they're kind of clueless. They get that there's something different about Jesus. They see his authority, but they haven't figured it out. Well, let's go on. So when he saw Jesus from a distance, he, the man with the unclean spirit, ran and fell on his knees in front of Jesus. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus has said to him, "Come out of this man, you unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Again, we see the tendency to self-destruction that these unclean spirits, demonic spirits, created, so that as soon as they entered the pigs, what did the pigs do? The pigs drowned themselves. Just imagine the battle for life that must have been going on inside of this man if the pigs immediately drowned themselves, and yet this man, he's breaking shackles, he's tearing through iron, and he is crying out. And he must have somehow wanted to live and at the same time wanted to die. And here is Jesus on the scene and not afraid of him. Everyone else afraid of him, unable to subdue him. But in front of Jesus, he's on his knees. And Jesus asked the name. Jesus has authority. Jesus has power. And the unclean spirits, the demons, they answer to Jesus and they give their name. And the man is set free. We read later on that he is clothed and in his right mind. He has been made whole again. He has been made human again. Jesus has saved him. You know, it's interesting. Jesus wasn't afraid whatsoever. Rather, the unclean spirits, the man, they were on their knees before Jesus. And Jesus had the authority to heal him, and he did. The unclean spirits recognized who Jesus was. And I just think, okay, what all do we take away from this? And, you know, for sure we take away from it the authority of Jesus. But maybe even pressing on that a little bit more. The authority, the power of Jesus to make us human again. That there is nobody that is so defiled, nobody that is so tarnished, crippled, wounded, captivated by unclean spirits to where they live less than human. There's nobody so inhuman that Jesus can't make human again, that Jesus can't restore and put in their right mind. That's good news for you and me personally, that we're never so beastly that we're beyond the reach of Jesus to restore us and to make us human. But it's also good news for those loved ones that we have that are kind of living less than human, that are living defiled. And hopefully this motivates us. Hopefully this story encourages us to keep reaching out, to realize that Jesus has the power to completely restore, to make anyone, everyone, all of us, each of us human again. Well, God bless. Have a great day. Look to Jesus. He's the one that makes us human. He's the one that can make anyone human. God bless.